Good evening. My name is Andrea. The open meeting law requires that I notify the public that this meeting is being recorded. Therefore, please be aware that an audio and visual recording of this meeting is being made by Boston City TV, a part of the City of Boston Office of Cable Communications, and it is being broadcast on Xfinity Channel 26, RCN Channel 13, FiOS Channel 967, and live streamed on YouTube. Wes, take it away.
Thank you, Andrea. Good evening, everyone. I can't believe we're already in December, and we have 20 days left of the year. 2024 is almost behind us. That's pretty amazing. I guess we can go ahead and get started with our agenda. So this meeting is called to order. That's the first thing on our agenda. And then secondly, we'll go ahead and proceed with introductions. I would like to ask each of the board members to introduce themselves by using first their name, which part of the City of Boston they live in, their role on the commission, and then a visual description just briefly for folks amongst us who are blind or low vision. I guess I can go first. My name is Wes Ireland. I am the board chair, and I live in the north end of Boston. And in terms of a visual description, I am a white male using American Sign Language, and I will continue to use American Sign Language throughout the meeting. I have 2 sign language interpreters who will be speaking into English the remarks I'm making in ASL, and you'll hear their voices, but it's me speaking. My shirt, it's kind of a red fleece, brownish red fleece. And I will call now the members of the commission that I see on my Zoom screen in order to introduce themselves, please. Jerry, would you go ahead and be first?
Sure, I'm happy to, Wes. My name is Jerry Boyd. I live in West Roxbury, and I'm a board member and have been for 7-8 years now, I think. Past chair. And in terms of an audio or a visual description, I am a white male with salt and pepper hair, and I am using glasses, and I have a dark gray t-shirt on. I'm not sure how much you can see of it, but anyway, that's a visual description of me.
Thanks, Jerry. This is Wes. Charlie, I see you next. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Charlie Kim. I'm a resident of the North End. I'm on the advisory board representing parents and caregivers of children with disabilities. And I am Asian, black hair. I have gray. There are more grays coming every day. Hair and glasses.
Thanks, Charlie. Zeri, I see you. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Sure, thank you. My name is Zari Amir Hosseini. I am a member. I live in South Boston. I have short brown hair, gray sweater, and my background is my kitchen. So that's what you see. And thank you.
Thank you. Paul, go ahead.
My name is Paul Karen. I serve as the vice chair of the advisory board. I live in the west end of Boston. I'm a white male wearing a dark shirt, or if I put my picture on while I'm listening in, I'm wearing a light blue button-down shirt. I serve as a supervisor for the planning department, also as a labor foreman for Local 151. And I serve as an advocate for mental health for the City of Boston. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Richard, would you introduce yourself, please?
Sure, I'm Richard Glevsky. I live in Back Bay, member of the commission. I am white, hearing impaired, have a blue shirt on and a dark jacket. And I also am very concerned about mental health issues as they affect those who struggle with disabilities.
Thanks, Richard. Carl, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, my name is Carl Richardson. I am a white male with salt and pepper hair, middle age or past middle age, and I'm wearing I think I'm wearing a blue button-down dress shirt. And I live in Brighton, and I identify as a deafblind individual.
Terrific. Thanks very much, Carl. Yes, your shirt is blue, I can confirm. Tara, would you go ahead and introduce yourself, please?
Hi everyone, my name is Tara. I just have a profile picture up today. I'm a little person, wheelchair user, wearing glasses and holding my small Chihuahua dog. And I'm a board member.
Great, Tara, thank you. Olivia, would you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, my name's Olivia Richard. I hail from Brighton, and I'm a board member. And a visual description of what you will see on the screen tonight for me is 2 Tyrannosaurus Rexes hugging using arm extensions. I'm off camera tonight.
Thank you very much, Olivia. Appreciate that. Juan Carlos, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, thank you, Wes. Hello, everyone. This is Juan Carlos Ramirez. I'm originally from Peru and have been living in Boston South. And for a while now, I use a wheelchair. I'm a Hispanic male with a blue shirt and short hair.
Great, Juan Carlos, thank you very much. I believe that is all of our board members who are present this evening. So I'm just going to ask Commissioner McCosh, go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kristen McCosh, the ADA Title II Coordinator and Disability Commissioner for the City of Boston. Welcome to our last meeting of 2024.
Exactly. Okay. Terrific. Let me just see where I am in all of my various screens and documents. Am I missing anyone from the board? Did anybody who is present on board member not have a chance to introduce themselves? I don't think I missed anybody, but just wanted to confirm. Okay. So we'll move on because we have a quorum, I'm told. So we can go ahead with the agenda item asking us to approve the board meeting minutes from last month. Are there any comments or questions with regard to the minutes, or would someone like to make a motion to approve them as read?
Need a motion.
Could somebody, I guess there's no comments or questions, could somebody make a motion to approve the minutes as read? Charlie, I see your hand is raised.
I'm just raising my hand just to make the motion to accept the minutes as noted.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Charlie has made a motion to accept the minutes. Can I get somebody to second, please?
I second.
Era, thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right, terrific. All in favor, please raise your hand or signify by saying aye.
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 Terrific.
This is Jerry. I'm
Opposed.
I'm abstaining because I wasn't at the last meeting, so.
Okay. Great, Jerry. So it seems that with the exception of our abstention, we are all in favor. So the board meeting minutes from last month are passed. Thanks everyone for that. We have two presentations, two presenters with us this evening. One from Youth Engagement and Advancement, Pedro Cruz, and then another from Youth Employment and Opportunity, Allison Bernery. I'm gonna let one of you decide who's gonna go first.
This is Andrea. I think Pedro's having a little technical difficulty. Allison, do you want to start with your office and I'll DM with Pedro?
Absolutely. Happy to go. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Allison Berneray. I'm the Executive Director of the Office of Youth Employment and Opportunity for this city. To keep on trend with the introduction, I'm a white female wearing a very casual sweater tonight. But really excited to be here to talk to all of you about the work that we do to support employment opportunities for the youth of Boston. I've been asked to keep it short, so I'm not going to share any slides or all of that, but what our office does is tries to connect mostly high school students, 14 to 18 years old, but we also support 19 to 24 years old to some extent as well, with job opportunities that are going to connect them to careers. We are mostly known for our summer employment program that as of last year has been branded the Future Boss employment program, because youth get to be the future bosses of their life, and we are in Boston. So that's the name of our program. This past summer, we were able to hire and support over 10,000 youth across the entire city, working in varied fields, varied situations, learning different skills. And then we also have a school year program that hires about 2,000 youth every year in same type of variety of nonprofit, private sector, different industries to expose them to careers. And of course, all of those opportunities are paid opportunities for the youth, which is often very exciting for them, for their family. And we try to kind of wrap all that around with some good services around banking, helping them manage their money, and make sure they're ready for their next steps so they can thrive and make Boston their home for the long term. For what I was asked to talk about, I think there were two key things. I will share my screen and I can describe if that's helpful. We have already started the school year program, and that's well underway, but we are already starting to prepare for next summer's program, because it's never too early for youth to start thinking about that. And so I will just share here, one of the big events that we have is our Youth Jobs and Resource Fair on March 29th coming up. It is hosted at the Reggie Lewis Track and Athletic Center in right by Roxbury Crossing, for those who are in this area. At that event, we have usually about 150 employer partners who are here that the youth can talk to, have an exchange with, understand better job opportunities that are there for them. We also have career readiness workshops, help if youth want to build up their resume skills, if they want to build up their interview skills, and anything that might be helpful to help get them a job. It's a huge milestone in our spring process for youth to get engaged with summer jobs, which we really encourage all of the youth to do. But there are other opportunities as well. We also host job fairs in different neighborhoods, and we do a lot of outreach. This one is just kind of one of the key elements here. And then specifically addressing this crowd, I thought it might be helpful for me to talk a little bit about how we try to really work to provide opportunities for students with all different backgrounds, all different abilities, and different statuses, immigration status, disability status, anything. One of the ways for youth to search for opportunities that might be a good fit for them is through our Future Boss interface. They can also, if online is not the right way for them, come to our office and we can support them. But I'm currently sharing my screen to our Future Boss website. It can be found at boston.gov/futureboss. And in here, the youth can find all the resources they need. They can find the save the date for our job fair that I was just talking about. They can find step-by-step guide translated into different languages for how to land a job or an internship. And then most importantly, they can see a catalog of all the open available work opportunities to them. Right now, those are the opportunities for the school year, but as March comes up, we're going to have the opportunities for the summer listed. One of the cool things they can do, for example, if you have a youth that you are supporting and maybe they are 16 years old or 14 years old, you can filter based on age, but you can filter based on a lot of different things. One filter that might be relevant to this group here is this available to those with, where you can see, for example, youth who have court involvement, limited English skills, physical disabilities, other types of sensory, behavioral, or emotional needs. So our employer partners help surface the kind of specific support they're able to provide the youth, so we can make sure we're putting them in an environment where they're going to be well taken care of and able to thrive. And yeah, I know my time is short, so that's mostly what I wanted to share, but any other question you have, our office is very happy to support and answer any of it.
Awesome, cool. So I'll jump in now on my end, and to keep the same pattern going. Can you hear me? We good? All right, cool. So to keep it going, I'm a white passing male with glasses, Hispanic, wearing a white button up with a nice khaki sweater over. At least I think it's nice. But with that, my name is Pedro Cruz. I'm the executive director of the Office of Youth Engagement and Advancement for the City of Boston. We focus on the 14 to 25-year-old population. All the work that we do supports the work by supporting organizations and spaces created for young people, youth workers and adults that work in those spaces and build relationships with young people and young people themselves. So all the work that we do covers those three areas of youth work. There's a lot of initiatives I would love to share, and I'll give definitely a one-pager to Andrea, and would love her if she could share that with the group so you can have a full scope of what we do offer. But the two things I wanted to highlight today real quick was, one, the Youth Line, which is a resource hub for young people that we launched this summer. And really what it is that we know there's a lot of resources and opportunity in the city and even in City Hall, but it's intimidating even for adults to navigate City Hall. Where do you go? Who do you talk to? So we want to be that go-to person so we can make the connection. So if you have a young person that's looking for resources or opportunity, connect them to my team, and we have a full-time member that their job is to identify resources and connect them to the young people. The second thing, I think really important part that I wanted to share was that we just launched a citywide youth needs assessment survey. We titled it You Speaks Boston, because when you speak, Boston listens. And really what it is just we're trying to gather raw data around what young people need between the ages of 14 and 25 after when they're not in school and when they're not in work. We're hoping that the report and the data that comes out of this survey influences investments that come out of City Hall for the next few years. So we'd love to get all your young people involved and really to hear what do they need after school and after work. So again, I'll share all these materials plus more with Andrea. She'll share that with you all. But my biggest message is that we're here to serve your young people within your network, whether it's connecting them to the right departments, whether it's something that we can do, or just helping them thrive or get connected to the right partners around the city. So definitely here to serve in any way that I can, and would love to be part of your community. And thank you again for creating this space and allowing us to share the work.
Mrs. Wesley here. Thank you so much, Pedro. I was wondering if any of the board members would like to have any comments for Pedro or Allison tonight? Charlie, you can go ahead. I see that your hand is raised.
Thank you. I just want to say thanks for the presentation, and then also the website. Actually, my older daughter, who does not have a disability, we've gone through that site as she was looking for summer jobs and employment, and I noticed that component. I think what surprised me, it was a really good surprise, was that when you start to select, if you're searching for anything to accommodate a physical disability or anything with identification that needs extra supports, it actually actively filters, and then you could see the employers. So I think that is, it shows that there are opportunities. I think if there is a follow-up, if we can have it just to see, and I don't know if it can be, but just, I guess some of the statistics and the successes, that have come specifically since we are advocating for this specific community. And I think, I know that the school system has their own specialized programming also for job placement. I think it would be nice to see collectively how this city is engaging and also having those opportunities for the young people to be able to have a job and really learn about the workforce.
Thanks for that, Charlie. Is it okay if I respond a little bit? Does that sound good? I'm so glad you used Future Boss and found it helpful. This was the first year we were collecting information. Just to what you're saying around what successes we're saying and surfacing those opportunities, two things I want to say is when we think about accommodating students with disabilities or youth with disabilities, what we've seen is we have kind of two ways we think of it is, one, we have programs that are specialized, like the STRIVE program, the DISC programs that are in partnership with BPS, that are really like we're set up initially to support students with disabilities. I think the beautiful thing we've seen, and that's what you were getting filtered on, is just employers who didn't, come up with a program specific for disabled students or students with particular needs, but when we asked them, would they be able to accommodate, what could they put in place, they were willing to step up and surface kind of actions they could take. So we've seen a lot of really, really goodwill from the employer network and the nonprofit network of making sure they can include all students. And so this past summer, there were actually over 400 types of opportunities where employers had raised their hand and said, yes, we can accommodate, X, Y, Z, depending on what the student ends up needing, and we will work with you on that. And so 400 types of jobs, which means really like thousands of jobs, like thousands of positions open to really all students. Which we were really excited about, and we're also hoping to continue growing, right? Because we want students to be able to access all 10,000 of our opportunities, no matter what their needs are. So that's kind of our next step as we move forward through the years, making sure we're engaging with all communities and all employers.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Thanks, Wes, and I just want to echo, thank you both for your presentation. My question is, if a youth was involved in special ed, but has taken their diploma, is no longer involved in, say, Project Strive or something like that. Would the Future Boss website be an appropriate place if they still haven't engaged in work or found a job? Would Future Boss be an appropriate resource for that type of person as well? The person who's the student who's taken a diploma and again is no longer technically involved, with BPS or special ed services.
Yes, great question. So, yes and no. If they are between 14 and 18 years old, our programs are specifically geared towards youth who are engaged in school in some way, for the most part. But that youth should absolutely reach out to us because we do have some programs that can support youth from that age range that are out of school. So it might not be as straightforward on a website for them, but we would encourage them to work directly with our office. If they are...
What if the individual's a little older? You were probably just going to hit that.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. If they're a little bit older, so the 19 to 24 population, absolutely.
Right.
We have less opportunities because our target population is 14 to 18, but we do have about, looking at last summer, I believe we hired about 2,500, so 2,500 people aged 19 to 24. Those are what we call youth leaders. And so this is a great place for a youth who maybe hasn't found their full path yet to engage with work in all those different opportunities. And so what they would do here, if they're using our website, they would just filter by the age, right? Where we have a category for beyond 18 years old. And then they would see what's available. It's a sub-piece of opportunities that would be available for them, and we can help them navigate that.
Great, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Mrs. Wesley here. Are there any questions or comments more from the board? All right. Thank you, Allison and Pedro, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you all. Appreciate the space.
Thank you.
Excellent. I'm going to go ahead with the board agenda. It's time for the chair's report. Okay. Again, good evening, everyone. I have 2 items to report. The first one is the transition to a new presidential administration. As you all are aware, President-elect Donald Trump will be returning to the White House after 4 years of a gap. There may be some forthcoming changes. I'm going to try to summarize some of the findings I have reviewed in my news feed, as many could potentially impact the people with disabilities community. Because Trump, I know that that's his sign name because of his hair, but Trump hopes to slash the Department of Education, which has been established since 1979. Many folks are trying to take action by talking to their legislators in Congress, not to support the S5384 bill, Returning Education to Our States Act, that was introduced by Mike Rounds, U.S. Senator of South Dakota, and I will insert the bill link in the chat now. If this bill is passed, it's not clear how much of an effect it would have on kids with disabilities. It could be a lot or it could be a little. The changes will show that many Native-related education programs will go under the Department of Interior, while the federal loan and grant programs will go to the Department of Treasury. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, and the American Printing House for the Blind, Helen Keller Center for Deaf-Blind Youth Adults, and special education grants will all go to the Department of Health and Human Services. All Office of Career, Technical, and Adult Education programs, funding for Gallaudet University and National Technical Institute for the Deaf, as well as vocational rehabilitation state grants, will be under the Department of Labor. Also, as many advocates are bracing for the new presidential administration to push major changes to Medicaid and other programs that people with disabilities rely on. Many disabled people have long felt that Social Security and Medicaid's current levels of function have left a lot to be desired, and it is possible that President-elect Trump will be open to some of the changes that the community has hoped for in those programs. As Trump's campaign national press secretary mentioned about Social Security and Medicare, she said that Trump protected those programs in his first term and would do so again. Trump has promised on the campaign trail that he would slash Social Security taxes, even though economy experts have already raised concerns about the costs of scrapping income taxes for Social Security checks and how the program's finances would be impacted in a few years from now. The list of potential issues related to Americans with disabilities could go on and on. With that said, we need to put aside any differences that we may have and work in a bipartisan way to get the support and access we need on a daily basis. I'm going to take a moment to pause and open up the floor for any thoughts or comments from the board on these upcoming changes before I move on to one more topic of discussion. Moving forward with the next topic. This is in regards to questionnaires describing positions on disabilities issues. And this is a USA Today article that ran last month, that many Americans with disabilities, including advocates, feel that presidential candidates in an election year often ignore their community. Two major national disability advocacy groups the Americans Association of People with Disabilities, and Disability Belongs. Both said that they were unable to get the campaigns for Harris and Donald Trump, and earlier even for Joe Biden, to complete questionnaires describing their positions on disability issues. A third group, the National Disability Rights Network, said that it asked primary candidates to do interviews with presidential candidates in advance of the presidential primaries in New Hampshire, South Carolina, or Washington, D.C. None of the candidates participated. Harris only made one comment to a voter by saying, all people, regardless of disability, should have equal access to housing, to job opportunities, to education, and again, to dignity. While Trump's campaign spokesperson said that Trump will be a president for all Americans, including Americans with disabilities. So I just want to point out this article that I read, because it is an eye-opening thought, as we will be having the City of Boston mayoral election next year in 2025. And yes, the time will fly by so fast. I strongly suggest the Disability Commission Advisory Board in the next coming months to start brainstorming some questions that we would like to ask our mayoral candidates and have them released to each candidate ahead of time and come up with a timeline so that we can be better prepared with sharing our questions to each candidate. I know that we've discussed this as a board in the past for a previous mayoral race, but I cannot recall if we have ever done anything like this before. Any thoughts or comments on the subject?
Sorry, interpreter was muted. Why don't I give it just a few seconds to see if anybody's thoughts percolate? Anyone would like to speak? Okay. The last item on the chair's report that I wanted to mention. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse the interpreter. That completes the chair's report. And we can move on in the agenda to the commissioner's report. Go ahead, Commissioner McCosh.
Thank you, Wes. Good evening, everybody. Nice to see you all today. I did not describe myself.
Commish, we can't hear you.
Sorry. How's that?
Better.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see you. I just realized that I hadn't described myself when I gave my introduction earlier, so I will go ahead and do that. I am a white woman with blonde hair wearing a blue poncho and glasses, and my background is of City Hall, City of Boston City Hall. So we can jump into my report for this combined meeting of November and December, last meeting of the year. Excuse me. So I will start with some department updates. So as you all probably know at this point, the City of Boston entered into a consent decree with some advocates a few years ago to build and improve existing curb ramps throughout the city. So the decree called for us to build 1,600 curb ramps every year. In 2024, we built more than 1,800 ramps. So we're really excited about that. And the Public Works Department expects 650 ramps to pass inspection this year. And just to parse that out a little bit, what that means is after ramps are constructed, the Public Works team works with the contractors who install the ramp, whether they were like city contractors or private contractors, and they do a series of measurements to ensure that the slope is right, the tactile warning strip is right, the flares are installed correctly. So there are a whole number of points that are looked at in order to ensure that the ramp is compliant. So it's kind of a tricky construction because, you know, we have narrow sidewalks, we have hills, so there's a lot involved in getting these ramps compliant. So sometimes they don't all pass, even though they're brand new. But this year we expect 1,650 to pass, so that's really good news. And then the Public Works Department has also hired an ADA coordinator for their department. That was also part of the consent decree. And this staff person is starting next week, and they will be working on curb ramps and areaways. For those of you who may remember, areaways are the areas on public rights of way that are actually not owned by the city. They're owned by the private property landlords who own the building attached to them. They serve as roofs for the underground space, which is usually a basement or an old place where they would have supplies delivered or coal. So you can tell them on the streets because they usually have a different material than what the city would use in a sidewalk. Some of them are granite slates, some of them are asphalt, some of them are metal grates. So when you see these, that's actually sections of the sidewalk that the city doesn't own. But they can propose a lot of accessibility challenges. So this new areaways ADA coordinator will be taking areaways off Andrea's plate. She's been working on this issue for years, and she's done a great job setting it up. So now we're ready to pass it off to this new employee. Another update I have is on our ADA transition plan. I've mentioned before that we're working on creating an updated plan that will be interactive. So anyone from the public can log on to boston.gov, go to this webpage, and look at data, maps, pictures, and links of all city buildings and facilities. That would be parks, it would be schools, it would be libraries, and they'll be able to find information on the previous accessibility levels, present accessibility levels, and future planned accessibility upgrades. So it's a whole lot of work to coordinate, but we're working with a consultant, and we're moving the work forward, and we hope to launch it sometime maybe in the spring of next year. And then my last department update is that the State of the City will be held sometime after January this year. I haven't heard of the official date or location, but we know that Mayor Wu is having a baby in January, so she'll need a little time to recover, and then she'll hold her annual address, and the invitations will be going out very soon. All right, next slide. All righty. And some important updates just to kind of follow up a little bit on what Wes was talking about. We know that there will be a presidential administration transition on January 20th. The city's been planning for this transition from Biden to Trump for, really for many, many months. We planned over the summer for either a new Trump administration or a Harris administration. So it just so happens to be Trump, so we are prepared. Our work will go on as usual, but we are also prepared for any potential impacts, whether it's funding or appointments by the president to different cabinet secretaries. We want to make sure that we keep our priorities front and center for accessibility and inclusion. So we will be paying attention to this and working cooperatively and collaboratively with our internal city partners, our state partners, and our partners on the federal level to ensure that the disability community is not harmfully impacted. And like Wes mentioned, it could be things like Medicaid, it could be Medicare, it could be different things we've been pushing forward, like airline travel, transportation issues. We don't want to see any of that go on the back burner. So we really want to keep it front and center, and we will continue to push our work forward. This next update is just a general update because I don't know if everyone on the board knows, but I serve on the Massachusetts PCA Workforce Council. This is a group of 9 residents of the state. We're from all over the state, and we work on making sure that the PCA program is viable, that the PCAs are afforded a living wage and benefits. We do collective bargaining, we work on training policies. So it's a really vibrant group, and we hold public meetings once a month. A lot of members of the public often attend, so if anyone's interested, you can find the meetings on mass.gov. It's called the Massachusetts PCA Workforce Council, and more information is available at that link. A couple other things going on with the PCA program, just because we know this is an important program. The electronic visit verification system, also known as EVV, is currently in the process of rolling out. And that is due to federal legislation that requires PCAs to basically clock in and clock out for every shift. So the state has been rolling out this system for the last year, and I use PCAs myself, but I haven't been called to use this yet. But it is a little bit, tricky to figure it out. But if you hear of anyone who uses PCAs and is having issues with the EVV system, you can always tell them to email disability@boston.gov. I can help talk them through the process and give them some referrals and resources. So this is just kind of a general FYI for the board. One thing that is concerning, the PCA program has seen significant expansion in the last few years. And while that's a good thing, it's on track to cost upwards of $1 billion in future years. So I'm sure we all know that the Mass budget is stretched very thin, and we want to make sure that the PCA program is sustainable for the long term. Because of that, Mass Health has created a PCA work group to look at potential ways we could save money without cutting services. Because I don't know if you heard last year, they floated the idea of cutting some PCA services, and there was a big pushback from the community. So ultimately, the governor did not approve that, and no services were cut. But we know, with the atmosphere in DC coming up, and with the budget shortfalls, we're very concerned about PCA cuts. So we want to make sure that we're looking at ways to keep services without making cuts. And these are also monthly public meetings if anyone's interested in attending. And then also a very big victory this year was the estate recovery was removed. So Massachusetts will no longer pursue assets of residents who are on the Common Health Program, which is a Mass Health program for residents who work, disabled residents who work. And now that this has passed, it's an opportunity for more people with disabilities to go to work. So what it means is you used to have to, once you turned 55, you had to report all your assets and income to the state, and once you passed away, they would reclaim all the money they had spent on you, on your health care, and they would take your assets. But now that's no longer happening, so that's a really exciting thing, and it will allow more people to go to work. All right, next slide. We'll skip that one, okay. So some updates on the advisory board. So as you all know, many of you have been here for a long time, some of you have been here for a few years, and then we have a new member as well. So I just want to go over the advisory board membership briefly, because we have our election that's coming up in January. So the advisory board consists of 13 members appointed by the mayor. The majority will be people with disabilities, and one member may be an immediate family member of someone with a disability. One member will be an appointed official from the city of Boston, and members are required to attend monthly meetings. And this is just a reminder for people who aren't able to attend for any reason, please let us know, send us an email. It's really important that absences are excused so that we can continue to move the work forward of the board. Next slide. And looking at the officers of the board, we have a chairperson, a vice chairperson, a secretary, and a treasurer. These offices are elected annually by a majority of vote of the advisory board. One member may hold more than one office, and people can run again, no matter what office they've held, they can hold it for more than one session. And these 4 offices will be known as the executive committee. They meet once a month with Andrea to discuss topics and create meeting agendas. Next slide. Okay, so quick rundown of the responsibilities of each office. Chairperson develops the agenda in coordination with the other offices, and that happens during the monthly meetings. The board presides over meetings, appoints any subcommittees that are deemed appropriate, authorizes expenses as needed, which we don't have any budget, so no worries about that. The vice chairperson performs all the functions of the chairperson in his or her absence. The secretary and treasurer, since we don't have any funds and our staff does the meeting minutes, really they just participate as part of the executive committee to lend their expertise and their lived experience to help us form agendas and think about topics we want to discuss. All right, so with all that being said, the board elections will be coming up right after the new year. So every year in January, we call for nomination of officers, and then we'll hold the election in February. So advisory board members may recommend fellow advisory board members to me. At least 1 month before the election, the advisory board will call for nominations. So historically, the board has considered representation from different disabilities to serve on the executive committee, just so we have that specific lens represented in the smaller group that kind of steers the direction of the board. The elections will be held at a public meeting. Our election next year will be on at the February meeting. We have confirmed dates coming up later in the agenda, so we can get the date at that point. And all members have full voting rights. Each member will vote yay or nay for each nomination. So I want to ask you, over the course of the holidays, please think about this. If you'd like to nominate yourself or someone else, please do that, and we'll do it in time for the January meeting. And next slide, I think that's it. So I'm happy to answer questions if anyone has any. Oh, actually, I have one more thing to add. We talked about youth earlier, and schools were mentioned, so I wanted to let everybody know that the Boston Public Schools Special Ed Department has been given space for their own dedicated building. The kickoff networking event was tonight. They're planning to open it in September of 2025. They're going to start small, and then they're going to expand to a larger capacity, whether in that building or in a different building. So that's very exciting. I'll turn it back to you, Wes.
All right, this is Wes here. Thank you very much, Commissioner, for your report. Appreciate that. I see that we have 2 hands raised. So I'm going to go ahead and call on Charlie first, and then after that we'll have Jerry. Go ahead, Charlie.
Thanks, Chair West. It's a question, actually, in the report, Commissioner, it stated that the Public Works, that the responsibility, and I know Andrea has a lot, but the responsibility is being transitioned to a ADA coordinator in the specific department. Will the Disabilities Commission still have oversight over that coordinator, or is it now a straight line just to PFD, and then we just are, you were just advisory? And I think that was, I knew that you guys did the work here in your department for the oversight, but then just kind of curious what happens now that they're hiring a full-time coordinator.
Yeah, so there are a lot of nuances with ADA coordinators. There are policies and programs, and then there's actual built structures. So this person is going to be focusing on like measurements and the build ramps and areaways and things like that. Like more of like they're not going to be doing engineering, but they're going to be looking at those sort of things. So we'll still work very closely with them, but they'll be doing like the work of particularly curb ramps, which we could never dive into. Like we don't have the capacity to review every ramp. We just work, we meet monthly with the Public Works Department to go over big picture issues and any specific issues that have come up. So we'll still be doing that. We'll work very closely with the ADA coordinator, but it wouldn't be something that we would have oversight of. They will be embedded in the Public Works Department. Andrew, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I would just add that you are still the ADA Title II coordinator. So for ADA Title II compliance, that's still overarching commissioner. This person will be like sitting in the same room, going out to the project sites with the engineers in a hands-on way that, that would be commissioner's whole job, and she wouldn't have any time to meet with, youth, et cetera. So we're gonna meet with this person almost certainly weekly. Part of their onboarding is to spend a whole day just in our office. So it will supplement and really help us have a dedicated point of contact in the streets cabinet for public rights of way. But Commissioner is still the ADA Title II coordinator, and ultimately she is that official federal designee.
I wish we had an ADA coordinator like this position in every department to focus specifically on their work, but yes. That answers the question.
Mrs. West? So Gary, go ahead, please.
Thanks, Wes, and thank you for your, Commissioner, for your report. And it's good to know that we will have a voice. PCA users will have a voice from you, in this new working group, and also, on the ongoing work at the PCA Workforce Council. Just a question or point of clarification. I know the Workforce Council meetings are open to the public. Will this new working group, will those meetings be public as well, or will you have some public meetings? Or?
Yep, they're held monthly and they are open to the public. There's a web page. I didn't get to link in my report, but I can go back and link it, and you should all have the report. It went out with the materials, so I'll link it in there.
So the new
January, the work group, yep.
The new work group is they're open to the public.
They are, but they're more of a like a conference format. Like I am a panelist, and I see the other panelists. I don't see who else is on it. It's not interactive at all. You can't make comments. There's no chat. You just watch.
Sure, but they are open.
Yep.
Great. And that will be starting soon?
We started in October, and the next one will be in January.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. And again, thank you for your willingness to serve on those two important groups for the disability community. So appreciate it.
One other
West?
update. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Wes.
Oh, no, go ahead, Commissioner.
One other update I wanted to mention too was that part of some work we did a few years ago on financial empowerment was with the Boston Public Schools Special Education Department. We had a grant from Citibank where we were able to use the funds to train teachers in financial empowerment curriculum for transition age students. And a piece of that funding also went to fund some vocational training and experience and actually work for the students. So they just purchased 2 food carts as kind of a pilot, and Andrea and I went the other day to the bowling building for the ribbon cutting. So some of the transition age students from different schools are going to be using these carts to sell snacks. They have a bunch of drawers. They're all labeled very clearly and neatly, and they'll be walking around the bowling building selling like chips and gum and candy and soda. They're doing all the inventory. They're like doing the money exchanging. It's a whole training program, and they hope to expand to do a new food cart, which will be sandwiches. So it's a great program. It was a great use of our funding.
Mrs. West here. There is a question that I had. I'm going to hold off before I ask. I'm going to see if any other board members have any questions or comments for Commissioner McCosh. And my question is in regards to the estate, or one moment, estate recovery. Is there any update on if Massachusetts Health is going to go after those who did have Medicare and to take any assets?
So it would be Medicaid that has the estate recovery, and that's funded half by the state, half by the feds. And I don't think all the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed yet, but it was decided that the estate recovery will not be aggressive like it used to be. Massachusetts had one of the most aggressive clawback programs, if you will, on estate recovery. So I haven't heard anything recently, but I will definitely look into that and report back. I can report back next month.
They haven't voted on it.
Thank you.
lately.
Okay. Thanks, Carol.
And you can go ahead, Jerry.
Sorry, I was muted. I apologize for that. I'll just use myself as an example. I recently received a letter from Mass Health notifying me about the estate recovery program. And I immediately went on, did a Google search because I did know that the new law was passed. So I wanted to see if I could get some particulars on it. And from what I saw on the state website was that the new law didn't go into effect until, I believe, December 4th. But like the commissioner said, I was able to see the same provisions that she mentioned, that it's no longer for those of us who have Medicaid through the Common Health Program and so forth. So I rested a lot easier once I confirmed that, because the letter that Mass Health sent out did not detail any of the new provisions. It was based on the existing law.
Jerry, I got the same letter last year, and I thought, wow, I couldn't believe when this happened this past year, because I was like, wow, I was dreading the letter, and when I got it, I felt the same as you. Like, I'll rest a lot easier. The good news is it doesn't happen until the person on Common Health passes away, but still, you want to have something to leave for your family for all the things you've worked for. So,
Right. So I was glad to see that, at least from what I saw, was able to find online, that like you said, confirmed about the Common Health, and I believe the new provisions, like I said, went into effect last week. So maybe that's why I received the old letter, not the new one, because my birthday was in November. So.
and just so everyone knows, the PCA work group that is looking at budget shortfalls, we have a lot of great advocates who are appointed to that board as well. Charlie Carr, who's the former Mass Rehab Commissioner, Becca from SEIU, who really handles all the PCA negotiations with the PCA Workforce Council, Becca Gutman. We have Mass Senior Action Council has a seat, so it's a really strong advocacy group. So we're really trying to hold the line and not let the cuts happen, but I'm sure everybody knows it's kind of a dire fiscal situation this year in the state. So we're bracing ourselves and we're working hard to make it as least impactful as possible.
This is Wes here. Are there any questions or comments for Commissioner McCosh? Thank you, Commissioner McCosh. Appreciate it. I'm going to move on to the architectural access report from Patricia Mendez.
Good evening, everyone. It's good to see you. My name is Patricia Mendez. I'm the Director of Architectural Access for the Disabilities Commission for the City of Boston. Today, I'm going to share a brief architectural access report and I have a case study for you. Andre, I don't know if you'll be able to share the slides, or do you want me to share them?
I can. Give me a sec. Don't tip them open.
Thank you. Great, thank you, Andrea. So our case study today is a restaurant, and I'll just start by saying that this restaurant was being reconstructed, and one of our constituents contacted us with concerns about the accessible entrance, basically that it was too steep and it presented obstacles for persons with disabilities. And they also had concerns about the bathrooms and the bar area. So what we did is our regular protocol is to contact the Inspectional Service Department, ISD, and then pass on the concerns. Next slide. So to share a little bit of the big picture rules, when a building is built in new construction, then all of the accessibility features need to be accomplished. But when there's an existing building and that existing building is renovated, if they do minor renovations, then just those renovations need to be accessible. But if the renovations are significant, then the whole building needs to be accessible. So in this case, it's an existing restaurant, and it had a lot of renovations, like including a new roof, utilities, the interior, the finishes. They did a lot of work. So the constituent rightly was expecting that all of the obstacles were going to be fixed and remedied. And as construction went by, they realized that they still had the funky entrance with a steep slope. So if we go to the next slide. After the constituent originally flagged it for us, there was still a couple of months that went by, and from the outside, they could observe that the steep entrance was still not reconstructed or still not addressed. So the constituent continued to contact us for information and to flag specifically that issue that they were familiar with. So they insisted, and we're glad they did, because then we were able to communicate and go meet with the owners and really explain to them the whole responsibilities that they need to achieve, and just be clear with them. Okay, so what I have there. So our work pretty much was to raise awareness to the owner about the accessibility responsibilities that they had, because they had this significant renovation. So it ended up being that we went and met in person with the owner and communicate and clarify that their project was significant and that they needed to have an accessible entrance, accessible bathrooms, accessible bar. So it eventually, they realized, and they were very cooperative and very willing to remedy those issues. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so in this slide, it has part of the building. So this is a floor plan. That means that if you're a bird, you're flying, you're looking down. And what I have here in the bottom of the slide is the outdoor part near the sidewalk. And what it's showing there is a little bit of the outdoor seating area. Those are picnic tables in the bottom. And in the center of that rectangle, there is the new accessible entrance. And to go back a little bit, the issue of the original non-accessible entrance is that was too steep. And you can see that original non-accessible entrance in this drawing on the left side in the corner. So after our communication, our dialogue, the owner changed the design and opened up a side entrance. And you can see the side entrance now in the center of that rectangle that I'm showing. So this side entrance became the main entrance. And that entrance is flush. It doesn't have that steep slope than the other entrance in the corner in the left has. So they redesigned it and they addressed, and now they're going to open, or they opened already, with this awesome accessible entrance. In addition, they kept the original entrance on the left, and they added an automatic door opener. So that's still usable, and people use it if they want, in addition to the accessible entrance in the middle. Okay, we can go to the next slide. All right, so the takeaway of this story is that if you have familiarity with a space, a business, that you see that it had accessibility issues, obstacles, and then the space is being renovated, most of the time it should be fixed. Like, all of the obstacles need to be addressed most of the time. So it's a safe assumption. And if they're not being addressed, if they didn't fix them, then you should be free to contact us, and we can help to clarify their responsibilities and make sure that everything is compliant as it should be. Okay, so in the photo here, I'm showing again the facade of the building, and the original entrance. You can see a little bit of the slope issue, and on the right side, you see the outdoor area where the picnic tables are. So on the right side, that's where the new accessible entrance will be. Okay, so we can go to the last slide. And here I put a link with the official public regulation. So if you want to look for more details and the actual language, you can go in this link, and this will take you to our Architectural Access Board regulations, also known as 521 CMR, and the specific chapter is Chapter 3, Jurisdiction. So it's a very popular chapter. It's not too long, it's just a couple of pages long, and you have all the information there. And you can always contact me if you have any follow-up questions on the more technical parts of those regulations. And now we can go to the questions part.
This is Wes here. Are there any other questions or comments for Patricia at this time? Okay, thank you, Patricia, for your report. Next up is announcements. I do have one announcement to share. The board previously sent a support letter to legislators supporting S-446, the Senate Bill 446, and the House Bill 769. It's the Trail for All bill. And it's a feature of the legislation was the formation of a trail access work group. And the Healy-Driscoll administration has decided to move forward with this work group, regardless of whether the bill gets through the Senate this year or not. The goal is to have at least 1/3 of the group with lived experience of being disabled, and to also ensure that group brings a diversity of other perspectives and lived experience. Starting in 2025, the group will meet quarterly, a total of 6 meetings. 4 meetings will be virtual, and 2 may be held with a hybrid format. Members not being paid by an employer or other organization to be on the committee would be compensated with a small stipend for meeting time and reimbursed for mileage for in-person meetings. If anyone from the advisory board is interested in serving on the Trail Access Work Group, they should email a letter of interest to Paul Jagny, the director of the Massachusetts Office of Outdoor Recreation. Just a moment while I share his information in the chat here. Again, that's Paul Jagny, the director of the Massachusetts Office of Outdoor Recreation. The email address is paul.l.johnny@mass.gov. The letters should be sent as soon as possible, and decisions on board membership will start soon. Are there any other announcements?
I actually have a question from what? I'm sorry, hold on 1 second. From the comments that Patricia was making. There is an organization called Life Alive Cafe, I think. Is that the picture that we were looking at?
I think so, yes.
Okay. All right, thanks Patricia, just for clarifying that for me.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Jerry, I see your hand is raised. Did you want to speak? Go ahead.
Sure, thank you, Wes. That was, just for a point of clarification, that was, I asked, because I didn't know if Patricia had the opportunity to share the name of the location or could share it, and it was answered in, that was my question that was answered in the chat. I guess it was Life Alive Cafe that was the case study.
Thanks, Jerry. When I'm looking at the agenda, what I see next, before we move on to what's next, do we have any further announcements? Okay, hearing none, we can move on in the agenda to old business. I have 2 items that I wanted to speak to. The first was board goal setting. I just wanted to share a little bit of an update. I did receive some interest from one person who was interested in joining the board goal setting committee. That was only one person. And when the executive committee met, we decided that we're going to leave that goal-setting work to the next executive committee, rather than establishing a new subcommittee with only one member. As you know, we run elections each year, usually in February. So the new executive committee can take on the goal-setting work once they're in place. When that decision was made, we also received interest from another person. That was past the deadline of when I was hoping to know that at least 3 people would be interested. But it wasn't enough. It wasn't adequate. And as the board chair, I don't really want to appoint people randomly, knowing that there was only really 2 people who would be interested in being on the committee. So we are, as I said, leaving that to the next executive committee to make a decision with regard to board goal setting. The second piece of old business that I wanted to bring to the group is to do with City Hall Plaza. And Commissioner McCosh can lead that discussion. So Commissioner McCosh, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Wes. So I know you are all interested in the state of the bricks on City Hall Plaza. Elizabeth has brought it up in several meetings because several years ago when the renovation was happening, the board made an agreement with the property management department in the city to assess the bricks 1 year after installation to see how they held up. Were they cracking, were they dislodging, or was it still pretty accessible? Because the previous bricks on City Hall Plaza were in terrible disrepair, and the city lacked maintenance dollars and really lacked a commitment to maintenance. So what we want to do with this renovation of the plaza is to make sure that it's well maintained and that it remains accessible. So Andrea, could you share the slides? So last week, Paul, Karen, Andrea, and one of my staff, one of my senior architectural access specialists, did a walkthrough of the plaza. So as I said, 2021, there was an agreement to look at the condition of the brick 1 year after installation. The brick that's on the plaza now is called wire cut brick. It's set so that it locks together. The old bricks that were in place were like, this is very thin, like a paver style brick. The old ones were the full like 3 to 4 inch deep bricks that you see like in buildings and things like that. So pavers are a lot smoother. But that being said, they can still dislodge. They still have a lot of joints. When you compare one brick to like one panel of concrete, the concrete might be 4 feet by 4 feet or 5 feet by 5 feet. A brick is usually 6 inches by 3 inches. So that's all those joints that you have to account for and make sure that they're accessible. So during our walkthrough, we did notice that the plaza was in pretty good shape, but we did see some things we want to point out to property management. The one note I will make is that we haven't had a lot of snow since the renovation, so we haven't had snow removal equipment out on the plaza. So I'm personally hoping we don't get a lot more snow this year, but if we do, we'll have to assess again in the spring.
But we can go to the next slide and look at some of the pictures. So this is a condition. It is poured in place porous asphalt. And what this is it allows water to penetrate to the ground. So when you have concrete, concrete is very non-porous, so water can't get through the material. And that can lead to pooling, and it leads to like trees not being able to get like enough water. We love concrete for access, but you know, when trees can't get water, their roots heave up. And this is a more pliable and a more, you know, better for the environment because it lets water filtrate to the bottom. For access, it is smooth. It's a little bit rougher than like a smooth concrete, but it is pretty smooth. And then that's in like a courtyard area of the plaza with trees. And then this is a shot of the brick walkway going, called the Hanover Walk. It goes down to Congress Street on City Hall Plaza, and it also leads to the entrance, the newly opened entrance on the second floor. And this brick held up really well. Go to another picture. Here's some pictures of brick. You can see some of the seams are popping up a little bit. And where we identified the most issues were on things like a grate cover. Like if you can see on the left, if you can see the outline, the metal outline of a square, those are areas that have something going on underneath. It's like a panel. It's not just flush ground. So those areas seem to be giving us the most trouble as far as maintaining the quality of the brick. And we'll go to the next slide. So this area was like the worst one we found. It's some dislodged brick, it's chipped. And again, you can see the metal outlines. Those are over a couple of panels. And then there was a path of porous asphalt and then granite leading to brick. So it's 3 different materials that you'd have to cross. And probably because of settling, it looks like the porous asphalt has settled lower than the granite strip in the middle. So there was like a good inch, you know, upwards of an inch lip on that path. So that's something we'll want to bring to property management. And then I'm not sure if we have any other pictures. Let's see.
Sorry, the computer that was screen sharing died.
Oh no.
So let me check.
Here, use this. One thing I will mention is one thing that we did do after the installation, we heard from people about one area of the plaza that they found a little confusing for wayfinding, and that's up when you're going towards the JFK building from City Hall. There's an area of, there's kind of 2 height areas, and one of them leads to the playground and the other one leads to City Hall. But if you head down straight towards the playground, if you're coming from Cambridge Street and you're heading on the left towards the playground, you can't get back down to get into City Hall. You have to turn around and go back. So we asked property management to put in some signs, some wayfinding signs, and they did that. So they put in some wheelchair signs to show the wheelchair accessible path. So that was one improvement that we made based on feedback from the community. And I have more pictures and some videos, so we can send them out in an email. But I know Elizabeth's been asking this for a while, and I don't see her here tonight. Disappointed, but I will follow up with her because I know she specifically wanted to get this information. But rather than having everybody do a walkthrough, I figured we could do it on your behalf. And we did have one board member there. We had our architectural access senior specialist with us, and of course I was there, and Andrea. So I think we got a pretty good sense of what shape it's in, and for the most part it looks good. And the things that do need to be addressed are not minor, but they are definitely addressable. Turn it back to you, Wes.
Thank you very much, Commissioner McCosh. I do have one comment, but I'm going to hold it because there are other folks who have questions. So we'll start with Jerry and then move on to Richard. Jerry, go ahead.
Hi, Commissioner. Thank you so much for finally being able to have that walkthrough. I know we've had a couple of fits and starts with that. I really appreciate you being able to have that walkthrough. I was going to ask, you kind of alluded to that. You said the problems, are fixable, or the problems that were identified are fixable. I was going to ask, you kind of alluded to that. You said the problems, are fixable, or the problems that were identified are fixable. You said the problems, are fixable. The problems that were identified are fixable. You said the problems, are fixable, or the problems that were identified are fixable. You said the problems, are fixable, or the problems that were identified are fixable. You said the problems, are fixable, or the problems that were identified are fixable. You said the problems, are fixable, or the problems that were identified are fixable. You said the problems, are fixable, or the problems that were identified are fixable. You said the problems, are fixable, or the problems that were identified are fixable. You said the problems, are fixable, or the problems that were identified are fixable. You said the problems, are fixable, or the problems that were identified are fixable. You said the problems, are fixable, or the problems that were identified are fixable. You said the problems, are fixable, or the problems that were identified are fixable. You said the problems, are fixable, or the problems that were identified are fixable. You said does it have to go through I mean, is it a long process, or is it something that can be fixed rather quickly, do you think? I mean, is there a budget for maintenance and fixing problems? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, property management, that's the department in the city that has care and custody of the plaza. They do have a contract, I believe it's with an outside contractor, is that right, Andrea, to do maintenance? I thought we talked about that briefly.
I'm not sure. I don't know if we heard, we have to check.
Yeah, we'll check on that, Jerry. I know they're very committed to it. They do have funding for maintenance because that was one of the big pushes with the renovation. So many times the city does renovations and then they fall into disrepair. We know what the MBTA is like because they didn't keep investing money in it. So these are really small fixes. It's not like they really need to do over a whole big area. It's just a couple of panels that we identified and then a lip along the edge of that pathway. So I would think it would be doable. The only thing now is that with the winter here and freezing weather coming, I don't know if this is the best time to do it. We may wait till the spring, but I will follow up with property management this week.
Well, I appreciate you doing it like I said, and I share your disappointment that Elizabeth wasn't here to hear about it, because she really was taking the lead for us on it. But I'm glad it got taken care of, and thanks to Paul and for your staff and yourself for getting out there and doing it. And we look forward to future updates, and maybe for more of us to be able to take another tour of the plaza.
And we have more pictures and video, so we will, I'll send that out in an email, dedicated email about the plaza.
Great, thanks so much.
Paul, did you want to add something? Sorry, Wes.
I was just going to say thanks, Jerry. And yeah, I did talk to Josh Hanley at Capital Improvement Projects. So they are keeping their eye on any major drastic, not so much improvements. I don't know when the next phase starts, but repairs. I have brought it to his attention. A lot of it's under the capital projects budget, but some of the maintenance, I think we can still work with the general contractor at fixing. There has to be some sort of warranty. Just a matter of putting it in our budget. That means getting it in within the budget.
Excellent.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Paul.
This is Wes. All right, terrific. Richard, I see your hand is raised. Did you have a comment?
Yeah, thanks, Wes.
Plaza?
No, about the goal setting. You didn't ask if we had any comments about that.
Actually, can I ask you to hold on just for 1 second then, Richard? In
Sure.
terms, I just wanted to speak a little bit more to City Hall, and then we'll go back to the goal setting, if that's okay with you.
Sure, of course.
Okay. So, I had a question myself about the City Hall Plaza, the state of it. And I wanted to point out one concern that I had last week. I think it was last weekend, actually. We had a little bit of snow. There was flurries. And then there was freezing temperatures. And on Sunday morning, I did walk past City Hall Plaza. And I was passing on the left. I was going to Park Street, actually. And while I was passing City Hall on my left, near to Government Center and that Government Center T-stop, the red brick, there's a ramp at that place near the stairs. And there was a huge puddle of water that had collected that looked to me like it was frozen. And it looked to me like it was on the ramp as well. So I was very concerned about that being a slippery condition for folks who would be using the ramp, folks in wheelchairs, et cetera, or that they might not be able to bypass that part of the ramp and would be stuck, unable to continue on their path of travel. So it's
Yeah, Wes, we can look
near
into that and
Cambridge
see if
Street. It
it
was
might
near
be
Cambridge Street.
might be T property also, Wes. I could look into that. Paul?
Okay. This is Wes, thanks for that. Okay, thank you. Are there other questions or comments with regard to City Hall Plaza before we go to Richard's question about board rule setting? Okay, Richard, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Wes. I may have mentioned this before. I've been on committees, commissions, and worked at all levels of government, state, local, and federal, and I've never been involved in organizations that didn't have any goals. So I think it's great that we've gotten to the point where we're thinking about that. Because the year starts in a few weeks, I'd like to suggest that instead of a committee, and I apologize, I would have volunteered for the committee, but I didn't think I had the bandwidth to do it, but if that's what it requires, I'll be happy to join the committee. But I'd like to suggest that the executive committees, the leaders of the commission, meet and just decide what the goal is. Let's have one goal for next year. Let's get to it in January, and 5 items for how we're going to implement it or try to accomplish it. And then let's try to focus on that next year. I think if we continue, if we wait, we'll get into the first quarter or the second quarter of next year, and we won't have it ready to go at the beginning of the calendar year, which I think would be ideal for it. So I would ask that the executive committee just meet and determine what they think our one goal for 2025 ought to be, how they suggest we implement it. If we have any questions, we ask about it at our January meeting, and then we go ahead with it and see if we can, what we can accomplish.
Thanks. This is Wes. Thanks, Richard. We appreciate that. Again, I would say, at the meeting last month, I don't recall whether you were with us, but the meeting that we had last month, there was discussion amongst the board about forming a subcommittee. And those would be folks who would be interested from the board. But to be very honest, it fell apart because nobody really expressed interest in joining that subcommittee. So we're sort of back to square one. And the executive committee did meet and had a conversation about this issue and felt that we really felt that the next executive committee would be able to address it much better than we could.
Well, we don't know who that's going to be. I'd be surprised if they could do it better than you guys could, but maybe they can. I just would urge us to get to this as soon as we can so we actually have a focus in 2025.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. We appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate your input a lot. Okay.
Are there any other questions or comments about the old business portion? Now for new business, I do have one item. The 2025 dates. I know that there was an email sent to the board a few days ago about the 2025 dates that have been tentatively released. And all meetings are planned to be on Zoom and in person at City Hall, room 801. We will have it hybrid. We will aim for 10 meetings. The next one will be January 8th, February 12th, March 12th, April 9th, May 21st, June 25th, August 6th, September 17th, October 22nd, and December 10th, as we will be skipping the months of July and November. Does anyone have any questions or comments about next year's meeting schedule? And Jerry, you can go ahead.
Is the location different? Are we no longer meeting in the city council chamber?
And Andrea might be able to speak more on that.
Yeah, so unless and until the board wants to come back fully in person, room 801 is a much better technical setup for a hybrid meeting. So if the next executive committee votes to ask everyone to come in person, we can definitely approach the city council. But until then, 801 is much more logistically simple. You're all still welcome to come here. I should turn my camera off blur if you want to see the background. Like, there is room for folks to join me here at the table and use the mic and be hybrid. But that's the plan until further notice.
I was going to add that it's actually not a bad space, size-wise and accessibility-wise. It used to be, used to have some barriers. They used to have like a built-up little stage with like built-in desks that was inaccessible, but they got rid of that, and it does have better tech equipment for like a hybrid meeting. But it definitely has room, and we'd all fit in along with like mobility devices and service animals. So we could think about looking at that space too, just because you know what it's like when you get bad tech. It's very frustrating, and sometimes it's just not even usable.
So that's where you are currently, Andrea?
Yep,
Oh, okay.
that's where I've been since COVID.
I just like the symbolism of us being able to meet in the city council chamber, especially since, that was renovated and made accessible. I just think if and when we go back to in person, I would still like us to explore the city council chamber if possible. So.
Yeah, I don't mean to make a decision on your behalf. I'm just saying it isn't a bad space if we used it.
Understood.
Thank you all. It is time for public input, if anybody has anything. Andrea?
Thanks, Wes. Yep, so notes on public input. You may have noticed you're unable to unmute yourself on your own. So if you have a question or a comment, please feel free to use the raise hand function I see someone has, or put a note in the chat, or wave on camera, and I will find you and send you a request to unmute. Public comments are limited to 2 minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrea. And we do have one public input. Barbara Frischlow, would you please speak?
Yes, good evening, everyone. I have a couple of things that I would like to ask. I attend the Age Strong Advisory Committee meetings, and is there any possibility if someone from the Disabilities Commission can attend those meetings? It's on the first Friday of every month. And we've directed some issues. They seem minor to the staff, but it's important that even the flyers that they send out, because they use two tones, some people can't read them because of, like eye issues. And I'm just asking if someone from the commission can attend those meetings. Second, DPW, those ramps that they put out, there's a couple that were mentioned at the Age Strong Advisory Committee meeting that were a hazard to anybody with a disability. And my third question is, I've asked this question twice, but I'm not really getting an answer. The redesign of Blue Hill Avenue, in their last report, they mentioned about how many car accidents and the speeding that's going on Blue Hill Avenue. But my issue is, if that's the case, why do they want anybody to step off the curb to go to a bus in the middle of the lane? I don't see anybody with any disability making that a successful venture. And I'm just wondering if somebody has submitted some information, because I was told that the Disabilities Commission supports that project.
So I can talk to you about the Age Strong meetings. I did used to attend them for many years, and I still could attend. You know, if there's a topic that's relevant that people would like me to speak to, I can do that. We may not be able to commit to attending everyone, or I couldn't at least, but maybe someone on my staff could. But I meet with the Age Strong Commissioner, Emily Shea, once a month. So I'll follow up with her and see if that's something we can work on, getting either me or my staff to attend those meetings. And the second question about ramps, if you have locations you want to let us know about, we can look into them. Commissioner Shea didn't mention any to me. Usually we'll trade information if there's something that I can help with. So if you want to email us with a list of addresses, we can certainly look into them. But we do pay attention to make sure that the ramps are safe. And if there are some problems with them, we can at least have Public Works do a make-safe repair. And then the bus stop issues, Andrea's been working on that. Would you like to respond?
Sure. So the Disabilities Commission does support the design that's planned for Blue Hill Ave. There are a number of improvements related to that project that we believe will benefit people with disabilities. So the center running bus lanes will have full stations, essentially, much similar to like a Green Line station, somewhere with a solid refuge and curb ramps to access it, out of the way of traffic, of regular pedestrian traffic. A lot of times the bus stops that are on the sidewalk get crowded with people who are just trying to get by, and it can be hard for folks with disabilities to be seen by the bus drivers. So there are a host of benefits that we see coming from them. I'm happy to send you some more materials that we have put together along with the streets cabinet. I'm trying to pull up my list right now, but I'm happy to email you those resources. We know it's a change. We know particularly that change can be difficult for the blind community because anytime we're changing the sort of pedestrian path of travel and knowing that you need to start a crossing, is new and different. So we are working with the T to make sure that we have a lot of audio announcements related to these stations so that folks know that it would be a centered platform. But other than that, there will be dedicated crosswalks, painted crosswalks with lights, with signals to stop cars, with raised crossings, which can slow down cars, and things like that. So we believe that it will be a safe and accessible Blue Hill Ave for everyone, that will also allow disabled riders on the bus to save significant time, to always be able to. So if the center running lanes are sort of self-enforcing in terms of people parking in a bus stop illegally and blocking the bus, so the bus will, always be able to approach the curb, always be able to deploy the ramp, compared to the sidewalk coterminous bus stops that so often get blocked by cars parking illegally. So again, we believe there are a lot of benefits to this design, and we're happy to send you all of the resources. Thanks, Wes, for giving me time to mention that.
Thank you, Commissioner Makash and Andrea, for addressing those questions. Are there other items for public input? Carl, did you want to say something?
Can I make a motion to adjourn? Are we done with public input?
Yes.
I make a motion to
Would
adjourn.
like second.
This is Jerry, I'll second it.
All right, we've got a second from Jerry. All in favor, please make an indication. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. And Bob, I'll get your email information and we'll be in touch.
Thanks, everyone.
Safe holidays and a happy new year.
Thank you. Thanks for all your hard work, everyone.